Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have the Tides and EP from an act named Blue Moon Science. And if we switch over to here, it is a private playlist. I'm getting to listen to this before its major release. We have 6 tracks: Step Aside, Endless Game, Vidina, When I Am Alone, Let Me Go and Step Aside. These are in various states of production at this point in time, but I'm going to be looking at them all the same. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to check this out. It's cool. We got the album art here, or the EP art here. It's pretty dope. I like that. And we're going to listen through all these tracks from start to finish and hear what we think. Starting with Step Aside. Let's go. Oh, there's some nice panning and some delays there. Oh, this is pretty cool so far. Oh. Damn, it's pretty strong. Pretty strong off the bat. I like how we're just coming in with these. There's no intro core. We have a little bit of instrumentation here that's quite interesting, and we're getting straight into that verse. And by the way, we've got, of course, Alyssa, Jane, and Guy Q. Guy Q, is that correct? Guy, I'm gonna guess Guy Q. Cool. Melodies pumping holes in me. Interesting imagery there. Most of the words are coming through clearly there. I'm missing a couple of them, but that's okay. You know, we're singing well. Nice hi-hat work there, that trap vibe to it. The bass is well balanced. I like how interesting it is with these vocal harmonies in here. It's very busy with these parts on the side. I'm not quite sure if I'm vibing with the sizzle buzzes on that side, you know? So why can't I step aside? Oh, that trap brass. Cool. Yeah, the percussion is endlessly interesting. I have a lot of love for that. I think everything's coming through nice and clearly in the mix. The mastering would have been... well, the mix would have been quite difficult. I mean, she's clearly a good vocalist. Like, she's skilled, she knows her vocal range. It's just, I don't think I'm hearing all the words clearly. That 808 is nice and tight though, isn't it?
Just look at everything like a movie, man. It's too cinematic for me. Gotta have things like plan on me. Don't nobody know but the way I be. Gotta live my life, ain't nothing for free.
Guy Q is a good rapper. He's fairly chill, isn't he? There's a lot of energy going around the surrounding instrumentation. That was a short verse. That was a really short verse. That was quite short, wasn't it? You know, Alyssa's going hard for most of it. Was Gaiku just a future or something like that? Oh, Gaiku. Gaiku. I call him Gaiku. It's not, there's no Q in there. Gaiku. English, man. Like, I'm hearing the parts about the world on fire, so why can't I step aside? I just feel like I'm missing important information here. The music is fantastic. We have a good dozen different different instruments, synthesizers, different percussion samples, etc. And there's constant change and it's sort of effervescent, you know? The production is definitely the strong suit here. Alyssa's a great singer. I don't really think we had enough of Gaiku to really kind of get a feel for who they are, despite the straightforward delivery of those vocals and the rapping and the story there. I'm not really sure what I was meant to take from Step Aside. And that isn't necessarily a criticism so much as just maybe I just need more time with the track to really get it. You know what I mean? But still, again, great first impression in terms of especially the music production there. It sounded like there was a lot going on most of the time. I suppose we're trying to keep the listener's attention. We're aware that if we're not giving people a lot of candy to keep them sort of chewing on, you have this situation where people might get bored. And I don't think people would get bored with Step Aside. We've got Endless Game track number 2 though. With Alyssa as well. I'm assuming that might be the same Alyssa, you know. I could be wrong, but that's my best guess, right?
Why do you have to talk about it? It's like an endless game.
Or is it a different Alyssa? I don't know if it's the same Alyssa or not.
I swore
Oh, the reverb tones on those basses and the guitar. Feel to it. I'm liking that sizzle there, the distortion, it's a nice touch. Oh, those kind of robotic synthy sounds there. Great quarter note groove with those accents. Oh, repeating there in the higher ranges, smart move. I think it's a smart move having the fluttery oscillating synth on the side. It's a nice transitional device. And this filtery on the guitar parts here is a cool move as well. Lots of really interesting sounds. I didn't really feel like we had to work so much for that release back into the normal unfiltered part of the song. There was definitely a change in energy and a build in it, but it wasn't as momentous as I was assuming it was going to be. Yeah, there's constantly a lot. There is constantly a lot of instruments and a lot of energy in there. It'd be nice to just have some parts where things stop a little bit, you know? Just an occasional interlude where we just take a break and we take a moment to appreciate that if you've already got the singer past the first track, they're probably well into the second, you know? Like, it would have been cool if it maybe had the percussion stop here and just pause, and maybe had it bring in with some automation on the volume or something like that. You know, like it's not necessarily a bad thing to have the chord note groove 1, 2, 3, 4, and have those punchy basses in there. It's not all in your head. Yeah, I mean, that was endless game. I think I was paying attention to a lot of other things, not necessarily the vocals in it. I heard parts of it, but for first impressions, there was just a lot happening in that track, and I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be paying the most attention to as a listener. Typically, you have that lead element, and then you have the rest of them being sort of like supportive. But the issue that we had is that we had a lot of things that wanted to sort of jump out and go, look at me, listen to me, etc. And while I appreciate, again, we're trying to keep the listener's attention, I'm just not really sure if that works so well in this one. The overall harmonies, musicality of it was there, that everything was in the scale and keys. There weren't any chromatics or accidentals that took us away from the vibe of it. The rhythms were consistent. And, I think the mastering is potentially, like, again, I know that some of these tracks are like a work in progress in regards to the production, but I think these are things that we can sort of look at as we go. This endless game, there's a lot of good stuff in here, but almost to a point like there might be too much, and it might be worth seeing if we could potentially go for a more minimalist approach occasionally with some of it. We've got Vidina next. Track number 3 with Lotta. I also have translations. We've got some lyrics down here for this song as well when we get to it, okay? So yeah, Vidina. Kindly provided by Blue Moon Science for this. It's nice to have vocals in a different language, eh? I kind of dig it. You get a different sort of sentimentality from it. It's a different angle because you don't know what the lyrics mean, so you have to really dig into the way that it's sung and the melodies associated with it. There's this kind of liquid drum bass there. I really appreciate it. This is good to have with these vocals. This feels more better balanced than like the Endless Game track. Oh, the piano is a nice touch in here. I really enjoy that. And that sub bass is balanced well. It wavers, but it sticks well. You can nod your head to this. Yeah, no, this is really well mixed. I enjoy this demo quite a lot. You know, the third track, and this is probably my favorite so far. Oh, a bit of vocal modulation there. We're not letting things pause. You know, Blue Moon Science, Tides and EP, there is no chill, man. There's no chill. I get it. We really want to have that attention retained, you know? Yeah, again, I like how we're vocal focused and how the drums are taking it back. See, we've got some filtering on them, keeping those high frequencies, removing the lows. And it follows a traditional drum beat track structure. You've got the verses, and then you've got the builds, and then you've got the drops. It's nice to have those 16th note hi-hats as well. Piano accents well on the high ranges. There's little string flutters as well. There's little bits of attention. They're like, I keep saying attention, little bits of interest, I suppose. Okay, cool. We got the lyrics here. If we can open those up. Yeah, we got new worlds, new faces, new places unknown. Woman in petite shoes like a knight roaming in darks. What? We want to mimic the birds above, but what if those birds want to be like us? Damn, dude. Damn, that's deep. We mimic those above us, but what if they want to be like us? What if we have a better understanding of each other and the grass is greener for both people? You know, when the spider is roping its fibers, I am asking a few questions. Where the winds are sleeping, if the haze will catch up with me. You know, like, well, I'm not being propelled forward by the wind. The poison, you know, that gas there. Well, the toxins, will they reach us? You know, it's interesting imagery there. Really, again, I feel like if you understood the language natively, you'd probably have more of a feel for it. You know, when I think about the birds fluttering, you know, the music makes you feel like you're floating. It kind of, you can imagine someone staring up at the sky at the birds and trying to figure out if they're looking down, jealous of them too. I prefer Lotta's vocal style to Alyssa's. I think it's potentially because there was better, it's either pronunciation or enunciation of the words, I think, in my opinion, from Lotta. Alyssa's just got that different kind of vocal style where there's more of a legato-ish kind of, there's more portamento with the way she speaks. Lotta's very more percussive with her vocal style. And it really cuts through the mix well with something like this. Again, both vocals have been mixed well. It's just a personal preference thing. But I thank Blue Moon Science, Liquid for the vocals there, for the lyrics there. We've got When I Am Alone featuring Nico Frost. Oh, it's pretty. There's just so much going on. You could just have had the bass line and the vocals and that would have been enough. But again, I suppose we want that intro to be captivating. I get it. Vocal harmonies are smooth like honey. Fantastic. It's charming. This is a lot more low-key. I'm liking how the vocals contrast with the lower bass harmonies. Oh, see that pad there? It's effortless. That transaction is solid, man. You know, when you have that focus in the music and the harmonies and the low end, and then you put that higher, ghosty, wispy pad up there in the top, it's a smart move. It's instant change. Good choice. I'm liking the sound of those snares. They're punchy and they've got a big thickness to them. That sub bass is good. Talking about castles, although falling to pieces and everything like that, you know, like the being, you know, you think about building a castle and how that would typically be a thing of success. But then people falling apart, they're making all these dreams come true, but in actuality, they're suffering behind the scenes. That's interesting. Not sure. Interesting repeaters there, nice stereo panning. Oh. Yeah, Nico's got a lovely voice as well. She's thoroughly distinct in the mix. And there's a softness to it. It glistens, man. It's gorgeous. Liquid, you know, Blue Moon Science, they know how to find some dope musicians, eh? Some dope vocalists to work with. Having these two different vocal parts here among the harmonies and the woodwinds and everything like that. And that consistent drum groove is great. I also want to point out that those risers kind of sound like they are mimicking the sound of tides. I think that's a good touch. That's a cool touch, eh? The guitar arpeggios are a nice touch. There's less in this track. It's less overwhelming. I think it works in its favor. So I don't have to face who I am when I'm alone, having to deal with those regrets. It sounds difficult. It sounds like a challenging time. We emoted well during that vocal performance there. I think it suited the almost the bittersweet nature of the guitar parts, the synth, the bass, the kicks, everything. I'd have to say that When I'm Alone is probably my favorite so far. I know that again, a lot of these tracks are works in progress. I think there's genuine promise for every single one we listened through so far. There's just things I'm listening to, and as a listener, we may almost be doing too much occasionally, as I mentioned before. But that's something that we can adjust. That's something we can adjust. And of course, it's subjective. When people make music like this, they might be like, "Oh, but that's expected of the genre." And if that's the case, we don't have to make any changes because I suggest them. I'm just trying to sort of give some. Again, I don't even know if necessarily if it's constructive. It's just me as a listener going, "Do I like this?" But I'm trying to give reasons and things we could do alternatively. It's just, I guess, before we go into the next track, let me go featuring Chloe K. For Blue Moon Science, Tides and EP, I'd suggest that maybe we have a look at some of the instruments within different frequency spectrums, the fourth harmonies, and we look at whether we need as much in the individual ones. We kind of want to stack an instrument in each bit for a really full-sounding track, a really full-sounding section. And if we've got more than one element in a certain position of the frequency spectrum, we might want to look and see if that's actually completely necessary, Sure, if we're not already, we can pan them out, but that's something that we are clearly doing. We've got sensational production skills. It's just wondering again if we're doing too much. Oh, this is fun with those sequences on the side. This is more of a better balance for me. It's starting with the vocals on one side, the sequence on the other. You can have a wow wow in the center if you want, but that's because you're panning it, right? It's very quick, isn't it? I'm not used to drum bass being 180, 190 BPM. It feels like we're experimenting with this. This could be a subgenre of drum bass and the like that I'm not familiar with. We've got phasing or filtering going on that snare drum. We're going back to the hook line, coming through clearly in the mix. Again, there's constant change. We have that filtering, that automation of the filter on that the low pass. Oh, on the low pass? A high pass? I don't know. What are we building to? Every time I need you wanna get closer to me. Can't you I'm wondering if we meant for the bass to be wider. It feels like the bass should go around the headphones. You've already got the vocals panned, right? You've already got the vocals panned. I mean, I know this is a rough demo, so it's a work in progress. If you can make the bass a little bit wider, and you've got space for the bass to get out in those left sides. The vocals sound incredible, you know. The production there is absolutely where it needs to be. Where are we going with this now? Yeah, it's a little bit wider with this one, I suppose. Is there some phasing going on with that snare? Is that snare supposed to sound like that? Sounds like there's some phasing issues with the drum kit. There's a lot competing for my attention here. I'm sure that'll get fixed as it goes through the post-production phase, but the piano line's nice on the side though. Nice repeater that the outside has potential. I think, yeah, just once Blue Moon Science has had a bit of extra time just to clean it up, I'm sure that'll be great. Yeah, there was lots of interesting stuff occurring there. We had different drops with different bass synths, and the vocals remain the same, Just Let Me Go. It sounded like Chloe K was having a bad time. I mean, they're genuine. I'm not taking the piss or anything, but yeah, let me go. Yeah, I want to hear all these tracks once they're fully done as well. It'd be nice to see the change that goes with the continuation of the production and the mixing and mastering. Blue Moon Science knows how to work within different genres, like sort of like some house stuff, had some drum and bass stuff, had some hip hop stuff going on with the Gaiku earlier on. I don't know what the thing is, I don't know what Step Aside Honey is going to be featuring Alyssa. But I'm excited for it because it's unpredictable. That's the fun part about this, you know. Blue Moon Science, Liquid, they're not trying to sort of shoehorn themselves into a particular kind of niche. They're experimenting, and I have a lot of love and appreciation for that. But their last track, Honey, featuring Alyssa. Again, lovely panning there. I think that's part of what will come later on. Nice soundstage there. Again, great filtering. Nice vocal ahs going on here as more of a melodic. Okay. You got some like oh damn. Yeah, no, I think that Let Me Go will be fine. Interesting tone to the hi-hats here. I'm not liking if I like how synthetic they are. They sound a bit like snakes or something like that. They got that kind of tone to them. I don't know if I don't know, personally I prefer like if they're more percussive just to go with the other accented elements within the mix. But because we've already got that legato portamento feel with the vocals. Again, that trap brass going on like with Step Aside. The fire pit. I've just realized this is Honey, isn't it? Yeah? This is Honey. This is Step Aside. I'm pretty sure this is Honey instead of Step Aside. Yeah. Good having a break there. Just had the vocals with the percussion. Just have a moment just to have some space.
I could miss it. Here I go again, wishing
You could even lower the speed of the rhythm of the hi-hats, just to have a quarter note or eighth note groove, because you had so many 16th and 30 seconds.
I stay true.
You know?
But I can't pretend that I know the truth. But I can't pretend that I know the truth. Now just pretend that it wasn't you. Now I can't pretend that this is the truth.
Okay, so that's the end of the EP, basically. That was a great way to finish it. I kind of zoned out a little bit with that last track. Honey at the end, featuring Alyssa. Again, the vocals were great. I got the groove of the main musical theme with the different instruments there. The dynamics were consistent there. We didn't really have a lot of shifts in regards to the loudness of it. I think part of that is because of the mixing and mastering. It could be a shame. I mean, I know that Blue Moon Science, I know that they have dynamic range within the CP because I've literally heard their secondary layers of instruments and stuff like that. I heard it in here too. It's just there was this sort of energetic consistency in the energy throughout here. Once we got to this point here, with that 43-second mark, it just seems like to constantly be that seemingly loud. And, while I am reviewing it, we had the hook line repeat here. There wasn't a spectacular amount of shift. Part of that might have been just because there was so much going on that, for me, it was kind of overwhelming as a listener. But that could also me being that's a subjective thing. Some people might necessarily, they may need this much going on in order to retain, again, I know I've said it a lot of times, regain their engagement with the track. I suppose to because this is the conclusion for the CP, Blue Moon Science Tides, and I liked it. I think that the stories told in here, when I got them, I liked Vedina's story. I liked having the lyrics presented on the page. When I am alone, I understand where that's coming from. Let Me Go. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I didn't really get Endless Game Step Aside that much. And then Honey, I mean, I listened to it. If we go back through that...
But it catches up each time that I wake up.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. I'm just struggling with some of this. One more time? Now I just pretend that it wasn't you, Honey. Yeah, I need more time with some of these tracks to really get what they're about. These reviews are done fundamentally on a first impressions basis. I do try and take everything in. I think, predominantly there were some cool themes talked about within this, because of this, if I haven't said it again, this is the conclusion. Alyssa, Lotta, Nico Frost, and Chloe K are all great singers. They display great vocal technique. Alyssa's got this style where she has these interesting inflections and I don't always understand what she's saying. But it doesn't mean that I think she's a bad singer. It's just you really have to be paying specific, super close attention to that just to catch everything. It's just the style, and that's fine. She's obviously, she's interesting to listen to. And part of what works with her style is that it helps blend as much of an instrument, I suppose. You can hear it either way. Some of the other ones like Nico Frost and Lotta came through more clearly for me. Vedina especially. I think it was when we toned down the amount of different elements of the mix and we had 3 or 4 main components again working with the fourth harmonies. When those became through more clearly, it was easy to swallow it and understand it. But not for a moment am I saying that these people can obviously sing. It's just the total amount of components within the mix. And again, I say this knowing that this is a work in progress and that there will be some tracks that are changed before official release. So it's cool. Okay? The tracks, we had some drum bass stuff, some trap going on, some house stuff, etc. some hip hop elements. Gaiku as well came in with his verse near the end of Step Aside. I think it was a balancing act that was done. Clearly, Blue Moon Science with Tides and clearly there's a passion for each of these types of genre of music. Let Me Go, you know, that was an experimental one for me. I haven't really heard any drum bass like that. That was potentially a unique one. Again, I look forward to when they figured out the panning and the spreading of the bass frequencies and stuff in those drop sections. There's potential there for each one of these tracks. The instruments, including the synths, the guitar parts, the bass drums, the piano parts, all this other sort of great stuff. I think that we can go places with it. It'll just depend on the final product. I do feel, I mean, I commented at some points, and I know I'm a broken record about this. I commented at some points that I felt there was just too much to sort of take in at times. And I'm hoping we can have a look at some of those areas where I sort of complained about it. If we want to sort of like, you know, like again, it's a subjective experience, right? But if we can sort of have some moments of minimalism just to contrast with the intensity and the complexity of the other parts of the arrangement, I'm sure that'll be beneficial for other listeners, you know, listeners outside of myself, you know. We want to enjoy the music and have a great time. And if like you're vibing, if you're in that mood for the high intensity vibe, go for gold. And again, I know it's the 2020s. The production, considering that some of these tracks have not been fully mixed and mastered yet, was still very good. There's a lot of promise. The tracks that have been fully done, you could tell that we have our production chops sorted. The mixing, you know, like the EQing, limiting, compression of everything there, stereo panning, the effects change and everything was stunning. We're professional musicians here within this EP. Blue Moon Science have got a lot of faith in what they do. This is a vision that they have obviously have a lot of faith in. But ultimately, I think this is going to be one of those EPs where we're going to potentially have to release the singles individually. We're going to have to go, okay, we've got these different genres of music. If we just go and throw it out into the masses, it might be sort of detrimental. So let's see if we can get some hype with this drum bass stuff, some hype with this sort of like trap stuff. Yeah, we're going to have to be careful with how we promote this because while the tracks are written well, the vocals sound pretty dope, you know, and I'm overall happy with it. The shift in the styles of music within this will be something that'll be interesting to see how we promote and distribute this EP. But again, there's potential. I cannot say that enough. I believe that once each and every single track in this one has been fully mixed and mastered, it'll be commercially viable. I'm sure that they'll be able to get some love for it. I wish them the best of luck in future. Like honestly, I'm mostly happy with this EP, and I think that it's a great first impression to Blue Moon Science and what they do. Again, thank you to Lickford and everyone else involved, Blue Moon Science, for the translations here. I really appreciate that. For Vidina is my favorite. It is my favorite. But I also, now that I think about Let Me Go featuring Chloe K and the fun stuff going on with interesting bass synths and stuff, it was different, so I find that fun. And that's effectively my review, though, of Blue Moon Science's Tides and EP. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their SoundCloud page. I'm sure this will be on all major digital streaming platforms as well. Stay cool and stay safe, and please also remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. Catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.